All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and start our final webinar of this school year, of the 2021 school year. So welcome everybody to the CTE TEACH statewide advisory. And believe it or not, when I was working on this is the exact same date we even did it on last year. I had to double check myself. I was like, wait, we did it May 19th again? And it just so happened to fall that way. So we're glad you guys are all here. We'll kind of go with you what we're going to do. But the first thing I want to do is, of course, always introduce my fantastic Surfin' Lovin' Hawaiian team. And I am Christopher McClung, your program coordinator for Southern California. And I'll let our team go ahead and introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Grant.
Hi, all. Grant Urmis here, program coordinator for Northern California.
Fantastic. Melissa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Aloha. I'm Melissa Dix, and I'm the Director of Education Services here at CRIROP and one of the administrators for CTE TEACH.
Awesome. David or Kathy, either one of you.
Go ahead, David.
David Almond, community recruiter, teacher on assignment for Colton Redlands Yucaipa ROP, and assisting with CTE TEACH here as well too.
I'm Kathleen Quiggle. I'm the support person, the program support specialist for Ed Services at the Colton Redlands Yucaipa ROP, and I support CTE TEACH.
And she does a wonderful job. So again, thank you, all of you, for being here and so much for this awesome team in this year that we've had. Definitely, you guys have done an outstanding job, everyone getting through this academic year. And so all that being said, Kathy, as usual, Kathy and David will also be in the chat room. Any questions you have, please feel free to put them in there and we will do our best to answer them promptly. And then, like I said, this is just a general informational meeting about CTE TEACH, but I wanted to give it that kind of summer flair because we are just weeks away from being done with this academic school year. And many of us are going to go, can't believe we made it. So we're almost there. But before we start, if you do want to follow along with us, we encourage you, you can go to this link here. It's bit.ly/CTE webinar 4. And then there you can get all the access to the slides and follow along with us in this webinar. We will also send this information out once we are done with a video recording so that you can review all the information that we have presented. But before we get into the content of this, I wanted to ask you guys a very difficult question, which is you're going to go to menti.com, type in the code 34885395. And the question is, it's very challenging. If you had to live an entire summer inside a movie blockbuster, which one would it be? So one of those 6 below, if you had to live inside that world for the entire summer, which would you choose?
You know, Chris, while they're doing that, part of me feels like they should guess which one we would live in for the entire summer.
Well, I already know which one I would live in, and it may or may not have to do with a ginormous Millennium Falcon that is sitting on a table behind me. Oh, there we go. Finding Nemo. Okay. Mad Max. That is the bravest person I've ever met. They're
brave or crazy?
Brave. They're saying like, hey, I handled the pandemic. I'm ready for the apocalypse. There's all my Star Wars people out there. Very cool. Got a few more coming. No takers for Jaws or Jurassic Park yet? Come on, that can't be that scary. It's just a giant shark floating around. Very cool. All right. Okay, so I have to know, whoever picked Mad Max, please share with me why. I'm dying to know. Who are my Mad Max people? Mandy.
Hey, Grant, Matt Joyner here. I selected Mad Max purely because it was the last one on the list, and it looked pretty good. It looked fitting for a summary of this year, as you kind of said. We all survived or we're on the back end of surviving hopefully a rough year. So some silver lining coming out of that.
There you go. That's a great way to look at it. And definitely anytime you can have a world where there is a guy who plays guitar that shoots giant fire out of it, it can't be that bad.
It's pretty much what we do daily in public education. So exactly. I think that's a fitting one. I think we all qualify.
I agree with that. That's a great input. Awesome. So our next question here, I'm going to ask you guys. This one's a little more free form for you. What is your ideal summer vacation? So, if you were to go on vacation anywhere in the world right now, where would it be? And we'll even pretend that the virus doesn't exist. It never happened. We snapped it away. Where would your ideal summer vacation be? Fiji, nice. Okay. Anywhere in the mountains, awesome. You know, a beach in the small island of Greece, anywhere tropical.
Naxos, Paros, anybody?
Oh, that's a bummer. It's supposed to go to Italy and it got delayed. That's definitely a downer for sure. East Coast, okay. Hiking. I don't see any desert people. Where's my desert people at?
Joshua Tree, anyone?
Yeah.
You did say summer, right?
Exactly right. Those of you who know Elena Hernandez, she is a diehard desert person. And I always tell her there's something wrong with places when they have to get water shipped in from somewhere else. It's not meant to be that enjoyable. So Tennyson, La Jolla.
There's your desert right there.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. You're at the beach on a pontoon floating with a cold beverage. Sounds wonderful. Well, that is great. So again, I just kind of wanted to get your heads around the fact that we are almost there. We are almost to the end of this academic year, and then we can start thinking about even getting away to some of these places and starting to enjoy our summers. So fantastic. Well, thank you for allowing us to be a part of that and kind of letting us just kind of have some fun with that. And so let me go with you with our overview of our agenda, which is we're going to give an overview of CTE Teach 2021. We'll kind of discuss some of the trainings and workshops we did. And when I've got links and stuff for you guys to get to those things quickly. Grant's going to go over the survey that you guys filled out for us so that we can get some feedback regarding the program. And then we'll talk about some things in regards to closing the program, such as the logs and invoicing and whatnot. So very cool. So looking back at 2021, I kind of want to give you some general numbers. We had 25 grant participants. That means 25 different LEAs participating in the grant. We had 44 mentor teachers this year. You guys mentored 193 teachers for a total of 2,924 mentoring hours thus far. That's just including the first and second round, and we are still waiting for some other additional logs to come in. So no doubt that number will shoot even higher as we progress. And then we're doing our advisor webinar right now. Grant and I did a total of 25 site visits. All of you have had some sort of visit with Grant or I, where we had a chance to really get to know you, get to know some of your programs. And I know I kept saying, like, gosh, I'm so jealous of some of the things you guys are doing across the state. Is fantastic. And then looking at some of our media, so far we've had over 6,000 YouTube views on the CTE Teach media that we are creating. And we've had about 900 listens. So people have listened to the CTE Teach content, which is kind of makes up between Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And I was sharing, and I should have put it up here. I was sharing with the team that we even had people who were listening in Ireland, which is really cool. I don't know how we've hit the Ireland group, but there's a few listeners in Ireland who like to listen to what we're discussing as far as education and career technical education. So pretty cool stuff. So here's some of the content that we delivered this year for you. So we started with our presentation sensation, where we kind of went through like how we create workshops. A lot of the slides that you guys are looking at, we shared with how we do those, how we set them up, some tips and tricks you can use for creating slides for your workshops. And then we had one about growth coaching, where we really delved into growth mindset and how that portrays to even coaching your mentors and helping them grow, in areas where they want to get better as teachers. And then just last week, when we went over hybrid career technical education, we showed you guys the different models that we've experienced as far as hybrid goes, and then some of the things that our teachers are experiencing when they've transitioned from being in person to being virtual, and then now being hybrid, and just all the change that has occurred for all of us, the last year. And then also we went over really quickly how to do a Bitmoji classroom. These Bitmojis that we all use, you guys have seen at the beginning, we have all of our Hawaiian looking ones, and how to create classrooms on that. And then lastly, we did one on shipwreck, which was about how to run a tight shipwreck, which is about virtual equity, and some tools and tips and tricks for adding equity virtually in our classrooms. So those of you who have access to this slide right now, if you click on any of those links, that will take you to those presentations, where again, we always say you guys can beg, borrow, and steal any of this content for yourselves, and feel free to ask us any questions you might have, but this is for you. We create this so that you guys can use it and share it and do with it whatever you need to do. So again, just feel free to click around and check those things out. And so going over some of our media, kind of a quick brushstroke of what we've done this year as far as these components go. We've had our regular tip content, which gives you all of the things we teach here at CRIAROP, our brand new teachers. That includes classroom management, Google Classroom, distance learning, all sorts of things that we've covered in there. CTE Teach podcast, every month we like to have an episode about CTE. And then we started this year these how-to videos where we just did these quick snippets of how to do things. And so one of our most popular was at the beginning of the year, which was just how to do a Zoom meeting. And then lastly, field trips is kind of where all of our stuff is housed as far as the webinars and stuff. So I won't go through all of these in detail, but these are them if you guys are looking as just a quick list of what we did this year. If you want to see if there's anything in there, again, if you click on this, it'll take you right to these videos to where you can get all the content for these tip trainings. And then, like I said, Grant and I did this the CTE Teach podcast, and we talked to chefs who are in the industry. We talked to former career technical education students who are now working in the industry. And we talked about just COVID and all sorts of stuff that has occurred this year. And like I said, here's all of these how-to videos. They're really quick, usually about 15 minutes or less if you're looking on how to do something, how to do closed captioning in YouTube, how to do a Google site, how to make a Bitmoji classroom. All of that is there, and gives you step-by-step instructions on how to do these typical things that we've come across this year. And then lastly, not lastly, but then now I'm going to turn it over to Grant, and Grant's going to get into the meat of what we did, which is these surveys. So I'll stop sharing, Grant, and the screen is yours.
All right. Well, thank you. So I want to start off and just step back into something Chris talked about with the 25 site visits that we did over the course of this year. And the things that we learned from what is happening at each of y'all's programs is amazing. And I think Chris and I wanted to steal everything that we could from each of your programs because you're all doing some amazing things. I bring that up because that's the rich data, if you will, that fills in the gaps. And what I'm about to share with you is just an overview. Some things that y'all told us that will help us in our strategic planning as we get through this summer and into the next grant term and the next application cycle. So we learned a lot from some of this data. And to start off here on the screen, you can see that general levels of satisfaction with the 4 major cornerstones of CTE Teach are relatively good. That everybody's pretty satisfied with what was happening. And so we know we're at least heading in a right direction, right? The next question that we asked everybody, and just to step back a little further too, we got about 44 total responses out of 70. So for anybody with a doctoral degree, that's a decently representative sample. But something to look at in the next question is the effectiveness for some of the different components of what we did throughout this year. And you can see the green here is the most effective, And so we appreciate that you notice. We communicate regularly with you via email, and the mentor hours are a really effective piece of what we're doing. And then we kind of step down into the mentor training hours, the webinars that are done, and we see some different effectiveness levels of some of the other facets of what we do. So this was a nice space for us to learn about how often you access resources on CTE Online. We know that one of the focus areas for us in the future is to adapt some of the modules that we have on CTE Online, to update them, make them a little bit more current. And we see that about 50% of everyone gets on CTE Online on a monthly basis, which is great. And it's an awesome hub for anybody that has been there on a regular basis for networking, for curriculum, content, anything else besides our CTE Teach module system. But looks like we're at least accessing that on a monthly basis, if not maybe a weekly basis. And for those of you diehards out there who access CTE Teach online resources on the daily basis, you're amazing. And we want to hear from you. So feel free to reach out to us if there's anything that you found is particularly useful, since you've got that really ingrained view of what that looks like and how useful that stuff is. And I'll go through some of those other pieces. We did learn a little bit about some of the CTE Teach Media resources. As Chris had mentioned, we've got some listeners from Ireland on our podcast, which is really kind of neat, knowing that CTE Teach has gone global. Molly, that should be a little feather in the cap for the California Department of Education, because we're relevant on a global stage. But if we look at some of the other facets, we do post our podcasts on YouTube, as well as some of the other webinars that we've done. It seems like y'all have gotten some good use and some mileage out of those resources that we've uploaded there. And we've also noticed that maybe we need to wane a little on our CTE Teach Twitter account. That may not be a central space for gathering information, but it's a resource that we've had nonetheless. So looking into future professional development was really kind of neat for us. We've seen that y'all really want to know more about this mentoring cycle and the growth mindset, right? Because CTE Teach is intended to come alongside a credentialing program and help support the mentoring facet of those credentials. We make sure that our new CTE teachers are getting the services that they need. And it seems potentially like COVID may have had an impact, and that initial growth mindset webinar that we did could be, a space where we jump off for next year and maybe even do a full series on things like that. But that's not to diminish the goal development and setting, which is really relevant for teachers, especially novice teachers, right? And building rapport with folks is huge. So our team's definitely going to be looking into how we can better support those things in the next year. And as far as engaging students a little bit more, we will take out the high bar there of the student engagement, because that's kind of an obvious one. But if we step down a little bit further, we see that social emotional learning, reflective teaching practices are big. And so those are things that we're going to look at injecting into CTE Teach as we come into the next year. And it's also worth noting that we saw a lot of, not a lot, but there were a few instances that stood out about things like culturally relevant teaching and culturally responsive pedagogy. So we'll see how we can inject that into CTE Teach for coming generations. Now, this is an interesting number, and just as a reminder, all of this data is captured in snapshots on the slide deck. If y'all are going through that, that's kind of how I'm panning through this at the moment. But when we asked what percentage of CTE Teach mentees plan on returning in their current assignment next year, the response was about 89%, close to 90. Now, this is interesting because nationally, the average turnover rate is about 8% for teachers writ large. And when you look at CTE teachers, it's usually a little bit lower than that. So this number isn't an end-all be-all on what's happening in the profession of CTE, but it gives us an idea for maybe COVID had a bigger impact on some of those teachers than we thought they might have. So if you have any specific context or stories to tell us about experiences with new CTE teachers who might not be returning, feel free to let us know those. Because even though they're hopefully isolated scenarios, we can still learn a lot from what new CTE teachers are gaining from the profession and what's keeping them here, maybe what's helping them exit a little bit easier. So that's a lot of the data in a nutshell. I want to actually pull it back to the presentation here for a second and look at some of the other information that we pulled out. So in an advisory setting, we're really curious about how we can improve. We've had some really raw conversations with some of y'all this year about the adaptations that were made, and we want to make sure that we heed your call, because CTE Teach is intended to be a program that helps recruit, retain teachers, increase effectiveness, and so forth. We want to make sure that that's as seamless as possible, knowing that we want to grow the program a little bit, right? And so if we look at these improvements, some things that stand out to us are the fact that some of the modules on CTE Online might need to be updated a little bit. Some of you, thank you for saying there weren't too many improvements needed, but Chris and I and David and the rest of the team we've taken that growth mindset in ourselves and trying to make sure that, you know, we build on to this foundation that's been running for the last now 12 years. And so Canvas was a new piece this year, and we're going to look into how we can make that a little bit easier to navigate. But some good learning from you all on how we can improve some of the program. I went through that piece. This was an interesting slide for us. If you take a minute to scan through, we see some points where some of the paperwork that we've had for you all has been a little bit difficult to navigate, and we recognize that and tried to make a mid-game shift, if you will, and we've changed the third trimester reporting, so it's just the activity logs and some form of evidence. So something to keep in mind. We're trying to adapt that as we go, but we will make some more adaptations as we get into next year to help make sure that this feels like a pretty seamless process that is worthwhile. So outside of that, I think that's all that we have on data, Chris. Is there any questions I can answer, or does anybody from our team have any information to fill in the blanks?
Yeah, we're open to any questions at the moment you guys might have regarding the survey or anything like that. No, quite a bunch. All right.
Okay.
So now we wanted to kind of get some feedback from you guys. We're going to go back to the Menti that we have. Same number. If you're already logged in, it'll change for you. So I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think your biggest mentoring challenge was this year? And you don't have to pick just one, but maybe share with the group, like, what was some of your definite challenges this year in the realm of mentoring teachers? Scheduling the teachers, okay. Yeah. Learning how to critique is okay. Not being able to see teachers in their classrooms, absolutely yes. It is so hard for me doing observations and not really being able to really see what's going on with students behind the screen. Virtual platforms, for sure. Accessibility, comfort level, yep. We've had a lot of new things thrown at us this year, and not just like tasks, but I mean actual, like, here, learn how to do this, learn how to do this, now learn how to do this, you know, have a Pear Deck, Menti, Google Suite cappuccino. I was like, forming trusting relationships that could just stop by, couldn't just stop by your room on break. Absolutely, yeah, definitely. Distance learning was a challenge. Schedules are everywhere. Mentees. Absolutely. So I'm reading the one, yeah, our teachers for sure have felt like they were just treading water more so than swimming. Yeah, and that's a great analogy as to what many of them felt like. So scheduling teachers and finding common times for teachers to collaborate in their PLC. Yep.
Also in the chat, Chris, listening. Many of my teachers lost loved ones to COVID.
That's very true, very difficult. Yeah. It's hard to keep that face of encouragement for your students when you definitely are battling so much on your own. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Would anybody like to share? Just we'll if you want to unmute, just share maybe some, you know, what you wrote and why you know that became a challenge for you. See a lot of people talking about trying to figure out how to schedule and plan and, you know, really connect with their mentees. So again, anybody want to unmute, be a brave soul and just maybe share with the group what some of your experiences were.
I guess I can go. This is Mohini.
Hi, thank you.
Guys can hear me.
Yeah.
I think what I resonated most was like trying to tread water rather than actually swimming. And I kind of felt like this was our first year. So diving in, you know, during COVID and trying to really connect with the teacher, but at the same time, myself trying to virtually teach and connect with my students. I think that I just really look forward to the normalcy that's going to come next year. And actually, luckily, I was able to be face-to-face with my mentee after school hours. Like, you know, we met a couple times at a restaurant and just chatted. So building that rapport with him was really, I think, probably the best thing out of this process. I do look forward to having more face-to-face and really being able to connect with my teachers. I think that's what I look forward to.
I could have a little bit of a fangirl moment here with Mohini and what is going on there in Turlock Unified, but I will refrain, and I will just say that Mohini is a good testament to a lot of the mentors out there that are doing triple, quadruple, quintuple the amount of work normal just to try and get some sort of a connection out there, because they realize how fundamental that is to keeping teachers, especially during this time. So I'll leave that there. Anybody else?
Very cool. That's cool.
Thank you, Grant.
Yeah. Either a physical or virtual thumbs up. How many of you have had a first year teacher this year? Like this is their first year teaching. See this few thumbs up. Ashley was thinking about it. She's like, oh yeah, I do. Yes, you do. And see yes in the chat room, a lot of yeses. So yeah, so that's definitely, you know, something to think about when we come back next year, is just how will teaching be for them, because they don't have any other frame of reference other than this was their year. And so it definitely has added a lot of grit to these teachers. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, they didn't know any differently. And yeah, it definitely has been a challenge. Now, same question. How many of you, again, thumbs up, virtually or in person, how many of you had a second year teacher this year? Any 2-year teachers, like this was their second year they were in the classroom? Okay, same thing, kind of thumbs ups. So again, our teachers who are in their second year, we are getting ready to graduate them from our teacher induction program. But in that, we're talking about how we can support them, because believe it or not, when we look back at those teachers, those teachers only have about 5 months of being in the classroom. And then when March hit, they went virtual, and they have pretty much been virtual ever since. So we're thinking about some added support, and I'm open to suggestions, and just again, that's kind of what this group is for us to kind of share ideas. But again, I really think about those second year teachers who've only had about 5 or 6 months of in-person instruction experience, and then they were thrown into this virtual environment. So and we'll just kind of see how that goes. So anybody else willing to share anything before we move on?
I have actually a question.
Sure.
For the admin in the room, who out of our admin for this grant program specifically are within 2 years of being in their position? I'm curious. Give me a hands up, thumbs up.
Yay.
You out there rocking and rolling?
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. I totally applaud you guys. That's great. Very cool. All right. Well, let's look at, so our next question, let's look at the silver lining. It's amazing stories that do happen. What was your greatest mentoring accomplishment this school year? Nothing yet.
I was just thinking I could probably pick myself through the weeds here.
There they go.
There we go. I know there are some good things going on.
Absolutely, there are.
I'm in the site visits.
Getting my teachers through this year with their sanity intact. Congratulations, administrator, getting our CTE Teach team built and functioning at a pretty darn high level. Fantastic. One of my teachers is her first year in the credentialing program. That's great. We have, teachers that finished their programs this year. I have a few of them. Super excited for them. Finally meeting with my mentees in person and developing that important aspect of rapport. It was ecstatic. We did our first in-person training last month, and I just can't even describe how excited those teachers were to see each other in person for the first time in over a year. We were able to facilitate industry sector meetings, give several tech professional developments. Very cool, very cool. A few more popping in. I'm going to scroll down. Connecting CTE teachers, collaborating across our district with like courses, supporting with tech, Google Classroom issues. Phenomenal. Yeah, for as difficult as technology can be, it does do some amazing things in bringing people together. Connecting with teachers who felt so alone. She loved just talking at our weekly 1.5-hour meeting. Absolutely. New teachers feeling supported and enjoyed monthly collaboration meetings. Fantastic. Our teachers, I always say, like, the number one thing that they love is just connecting with each other. If you put a bunch of teachers in a room, much like us, and just let people talk, amazing things will happen out of that. So still coming a little bit more. Very cool. Being told from mentees how valuable the time was spent. I'm seeing one of my instructors have all of her students pass their state exam. That's phenomenal. More of her accomplishments than mine. Having the CTE teachers try new tech tools during our training, like Jamboard, again, things that our teachers did not know last year, now they're experts on. And I keep saying, every teacher needs to put professional DJ on their resume this year, because we've done it all. We've spun websites and shared screens and played music, and we all need to put professional DJs on our resumes. Watching my people become confident and relaxed in the lectures face to face, and the use of tools reflecting on their lesson objectives, using reflective journal with students on projects, use of what was your win for this week during our weekly meeting. Fantastic. Does anybody want to be brave, unmute, and just share about something awesome that has happened to them this year? Anybody, just a neat experience that you had with a mentee.
I'll go.
Sure. Thanks, Sheila.
Well, for us, I think we don't just mentor our mentees, we mentor all the CTE teachers in our district.
Mm-hmm.
So what was really great, because it was in a virtual environment, we were able to have them send us videos of teachers that we would have never been able to actually schedule in to get into their classes. And just to see how they've taken the virtual environment and really created that hands-on experience for the kids, it was really encouraging.
That's cool. That is very cool. Anybody else want to share?
You know, I'm going to talk for one of my mentors because she's not talking and she had a great experience.
Good. Thanks,
there
guys.
was one of her teachers, was first year, had not been in his classroom. So the school had not, and it was a brand new class in that pathway. And they had not ordered any equipment for him. He had absolutely nothing.
Oh
and then a week before, they told him, oh, guess what? We're all going back to school next week. Kids are coming back. He has nothing. So Chris took it upon herself to call some teachers in another district and ask if they had any old equipment or engines or anything that they said, oh my gosh, we're giving away. We have all this stuff piled here that we're just going to give away. So she went with her husband, loaded up her truck, and drove it over to her mentee's district. And just she said the look on his face, and she said he was so appreciative and just so excited.
That's very cool. Very cool. Round of applause for Chris. She is one of my heroes. Always when I talk to her, it does not surprise me one bit. So fantastic. Love Chris. She's great. Anybody else?
Can I share out?
Shy? Yeah, definitely. Please do.
Okay, good. Hi, I'm Mandy from Wilson High School with LAUSD, and I've been at Wilson for 3 years, but this last year we opened up 4 new pathways at Wilson. So it was we did everything from marketing, meeting every week, to getting the materials from Perkins, dreaming what would you like to have in your classroom, to what you want it to be, what your goals are. I mean, we've had an awesome year, and I can really confidently say that when we go back into the classroom, I feel really good about my 4 pathways that are opening up.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. That's good. Awesome job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else want to share?
I'll follow up.
All right.
And thank you for those.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah.
That same teacher, I wrote it in the chat line, but that same teacher, the first day that he had kids in the classroom, he totally forgot about all the kids online. And he taught for the whole hour to 7 kids in the classroom. And all the ones online never knew what was going on. It was just really funny. I just had to laugh. I couldn't. What else could you do?
It happens. That's very cool. Unfortunately, I have been guilty of the exact same thing. I subbed for one of our teachers and I was like, oh no, there's kids online. And I realized that about midway through the period. So very cool. Anybody else want to share anything before we move on? It's your guys' time to shine. All right. Well, one of the things I wanted to share with you guys is a video that Google does every single year. So we're not quite at the end of 2021 just yet, but we obviously came to the end of 2020. And so every year what Google does is they share basically what people have searched for. And given the fact that we were in the pandemic and we're kind of making our way through it, I thought this was really neat too, and a great kind of way to share with you guys just the silver linings that we have experienced as well. So I'm going to kind of make this a little bit larger, change some settings on my screen here. Okay, should be good to go. And so this is Google's year in search. Again, this is for 2020. We'll get to 2021s at the end of this year when they release it. But this is what we all searched for and what we went through and what we experienced kind of in this pandemic together. So there you go.
The most human trait is to want to know why. And in a year that tested everyone around the world, why was searched more than ever.
The spread of the coronavirus has passed a significant milestone.
And while we didn't find all the answers, we kept asking. Some questions inspired joy, others excitement.
Life in the bubble. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I don't know what an improper fraction is.
Keep all of those distractions out of the way.
We found toilet tissue, y'all. Oh my God.
Put it on there and start it up for me.
What are y'all doing? It's still March. How many days in March?
Some questions made us cry.
You know, we've been through our ups and been through our downs. I think the most important part is that we all stay together throughout. I love you guys.
Some made us worry about this spinning rock we call home.
Fires were detected in the Amazon rainforest.
Why were so many lives lost?
Almost 1.5 million people have now died of COVID-19 worldwide.
Why are we still asking the same questions?
George Floyd repeatedly told the officers that he could not breathe.
So why do we still have strength to continue?
I believe in your power. I believe in our power.
Chants of Black Lives Matter echoed from thousands of protesters in cities around the world.
Why are we not defeated?
We have made too much progress, and we are not going back. We are going forward.
Planes are starting to arrive in Beirut, full of international aid.
Firefighters from around the world arriving in California. There are over 100 coronavirus vaccines in development worldwide.
This is one of those times when people look out for one another and have each other's backs.
We kept going for those who showed us the way.
Think about how you would like the world to be for your daughters and granddaughters.
Remember, the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. Press on with pride and press on with purpose.
Why is it that this year showed its worst and we still found ways to triumph?
An incredible feat for Maya Gabriera.
Naomi Osaka, U.S. Open Championship.
Can't let Corona stop you. Can't let quarantine stop you.
So until we get to every answer, we're still searching.
Right. So just a little reminder that we will not give up, that we will keep moving forward and be the phenomenal educators that we are. So let's skip past all this. So kind of start to wrap up now. We went over the invoicing last week, and so that's just kind of a quick reminder. We want you to encourage you guys, if you guys get us all of your invoices and all of our logs in by May, and we can turn around and get those payments to you this fiscal year. And then what we will do is send you, we will calculate all of those. And then we have a form that we're putting together that we'll send you that you guys can sign digitally and get it back to us, and then we could send payments out. Kathy, anything that you want me to address on that, or anybody have any questions about that particular thing?
I do want to remind everybody that after July 15th, there will be no payment. So if you send it late by accident or just an oversight, it will not be paid. So if you could get your invoices, your logs in by the first week of June would be really ideal. If not, the end of May.
The end of May.
Just to ensure that payment can be made. Was it by May 31st? Would ensure that you'll receive payment this year.
This fiscal year.
In this fiscal year. Otherwise, you will receive it in the next fiscal year.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So other than that, we just wanted to remind you guys, if you want to sign up for next year's interest list, you can already do so by we made it easy. If you just go to ctteach.com, that takes you to the interest list form. And we wanted to try to make it a little bit easier for you guys to find it. And above all, for you guys to share with other sites that are looking to develop mentors or need some assistance in having funding to mentor other teachers. We obviously think it is so important. And again, going back to the video we just showed as to why we kind of all need to be doing this together, because we do things better together. And then any questions that we can answer, whether in chat or just in person, you guys might have for us. Anything? No? Any questions, David or Kathy?
No.
All right. Well, then I guess Grant and I
Sorry, Chris, no.
Okay. Then I guess Grant and I will just freestyle rap for the next 10 minutes. Is that okay? No. All right. So I was going to do a little bit of Fresh Prince. That's all right. All right. So we like to close up our webinars always with an inspirational quote. I am a huge fan of Fred Rogers. You guys can't see it, but there is a Fred Rogers Funko Pop right here. I also have a Fred Rogers, it's a book. It's not his biography, but there's a book that they put out when the Tom Hanks movie came out about him and whatnot. So, so all of that's available. But I thought instead of us just reading this quote, it would be even more impactful if we just let Fred speak for himself.
And it's such a lofty profession, that of teacher. Imagine giving what you have learned to somebody else. There have been people who have given me the compliment of being a teacher, and I take that as a very big compliment.
All right, so now you know I didn't make it up. The man said it himself. And with that, we are done. Feel free to hang around. But other than that, we want you guys to totally enjoy your summers. And we will hopefully see you next year in the CTE Teach. And David, I'm looking for your song. All right, here it is.
Gabby.
There it is. All right, well, we are done, everyone. Thank you again so much. Feel free to hang out. Listen to some great music with us. But if you don't have any questions, like I said, we'll see you, hopefully see you guys next year. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
This program really helped me be focused with the 5 new pathways that were at my school. It was difficult. I mean, from building Perkins to trying to make a dream, And, you know, like I said, I've been doing this for years, and not once did I ever have this opportunity to actually get paid for doing this.
That's
So
great.
that was awesome. That was awesome. My principal's all for it. So yeah,
Good.
it really helped.
I'm glad we could help. And that's what we're here for. And people think we're crazy when we say we will pay you to just be a mentor.
Unbelievable. I've been doing this for years and I didn't know about this. Okay. So I'm sharing it with my colleagues who I feel are leaders that can take on. So yeah, so thank you so much for this opportunity.
For sure.